little bit of delayed start, but here we are for Q1 2025 EPD product updates. My name is Graham. I'm the EPD Customer Success Manager here at Click LCA, and I will sort of help update what's been happening over the last few months with Click LCA in the next 30 to 45 minutes or so. So what exactly is on the agenda? So first point will be general improvements to Click LCA. Second, we'll take a look at the software updates that are specific for our EPD tools. Then we'll move on to best practices. We'll have a Q&A, and then we'll wrap up the session. I'm happy to take questions during the webinar as well when the topics arise. So feel free to write questions into the Q&A, and I'll try to keep an eye on those as we go. The recording and the slides we'll try to share afterwards as well. So let's move on. So general improvements is our first topic for today. So the first one is account security. So many of you probably have already noticed this, at least I hope so, and you've already got it set up, is that we now have mandatory multi-factor authentication. So this has been enabled to enhance security and basically prevent unauthorized access to your data, essentially. So it adds this extra layer of security, which requires a secondary verification method. So you also sign in with your password, and then you'll be asked to do this multi-factor authentication or two-factor authentication, usually using a mobile app. So if you haven't got it set up already, you should download one of these authenticator apps to your device, Microsoft or Google Authenticator, for example, and then you can scan the QR code that's displayed on the screen in Click LCA to be able to set up this two-factor authentication possibility. So just extra security. You're probably familiar with this with other types of software apps that you use, and maybe even just your email. You might have to do this already. So Click LCA is also adding this for security. Next then is Academy login. So it used to be the case that you had a separate login for Click LCA Academy and for the Click LCA platform. Now that's just one login. So when you're logged into Click LCA platform, you can also access the Academy. So when you click to go to the Academy, maybe to do your onboarding course or review some lesson on a particular topic there, you used to have to log in again. Now you're automatically logged in. Now, there's a couple of different scenarios here, 1, 2, and 3. So the first one is that you already use the same email address for both. And if you did use the same email address for both, then no change, everything's good to go. You can log in as you normally did to Click LCA, and you'll directly have access to the Academy. So you can click help in the top right corner in your Click LCA account, and there you'll see a link directly to the Academy. If you use different email addresses, no worries. You can now just start using your work email address instead. So again, once you're logged into Click LCA platform, you can click through to actually get logged into the Academy using usually the work email is what you're using with Click LCA. And I don't think there'll be too many of case number 3 here in this audience today. But if you did have an Academy account, but no Click LCA account, you can simply sign up to Click LCA with the email address that you have in the Academy, and they will have sort of a link together. So you'll have that single login for both of the platforms. This is also the same login that you'd use for the community. If you've been keeping up with the topics there, or maybe contributing to the discussion in the Click LCA community. Next topic is on database expansion. So as you know, Click LCA sort of prides itself, I would say, on having a huge amount of data available to use in the platform. And every month, every week, in fact, we're adding more and more data. So this is just a monthly view from 2025 so far. So between January, February, and March of this year, we added almost 15,000 new industry data sets, or EPDs. And we've also been adding new generic data as well. So where potentially there's gaps in the data, One-Click LCA will create generic data. And there we've added about 150 or so data sets for different types of materials, and potentially they will be of use to you in some of your projects as well. Maybe more importantly is the eco-event data. So eco-event is probably the generic database that you're using most often in your product lifecycle assessments, and we recently updated the eco-event 3.10. That was back at the end of 2024. And then we also updated it to eco-event 3.10.1. This was a really important update because eco-event noticed that they had some bugs in the release of eco-event 3.10, and they basically needed to be fixed. So that's what we did. And we also updated this to the end-to-end tools. So the concrete end-to-end generator and the luminaires and electronics end-to-end generator, they were also updated with eco-event 3.10.1. And this was applied automatically to projects. So usually when we're doing updates to databases, we would maybe give you the choice, or we'd have a new tool version that has the new version of eco-event. But in this case, because there was bugs in that previous release from eco-event, we did it automatically and applied it directly to existing projects. Any private construction groups and data lists that you had already created with 3.10 were overwritten with eco-event 3.10.1. And when I share the slides later, all these links will be accessible where you can, read a little bit more, let's say from eco-event's website on their statement on the update to eco-event 3.10.1. EPD templates, we had quite a number of them, new ones and updated ones over the past few months. So at the top of the page here, we can see some new templates that were added. So for those of you that haven't used templates before, they're like example LCA models for this particular category of products. So we added one for damp-proof membranes, one for plastic valves, and another for an entrance control system. And then we're also updating the templates. So we have different ways of using the software. We'll see a couple of things later on in this presentation about ways of working with, for example, biogenic carbon or with construction groups. And so we're updating those templates so that they're in line with the latest modeling and the latest tool versions. So in the table here, we can see that there were quite a lot of templates that have been updated so far. So asphalt, concrete, bitumen, roofing membrane, cement plaster, brick and tile, some more electrical products, large ones like industrial doors and escalators, HVAC products, also hot dip galvanized modular connectors, furniture data example for height adjustable desks. So quite a lot of different templates were also updated. And in our help center, you can find a list of all of the templates that we have available to you. So if you have an expert license, you can have access to any of these templates. Just let us know if you want to basically have a look to see how that kind of product would be modeled. And it means that you don't start your LCA from scratch. You can use these to help develop your own EPD. That was it for the sort of general updates, and now we move more to the EPD software updates. The first one is a new tool that we introduced called the EPD Quality Checker. So this is basically designed to help you create better EPDs because it allows you to spot potential errors in it, that basically reduces the time that you spend during EPD verification. what this does is it provides a check on overall mass balance. So making sure that your inputs and outputs to the LCA model are aligned with each other. And it also breaks down that mass balance to see specifically if the product raw materials are balanced. So what you put into A1 is balanced with what you put out at end of life in module C. The packaging materials that you put in A3 that are put out in A5 are balanced, and also the manufacturing waste. So waste that's generated from production loss, for example, ancillary waste, is the same as the amount of waste that goes out in A3. So it gives you a point in the right direction to say, yes, you've got everything accounted for, and this model looks like it's in good shape to move forward. There's also an energy balancing check as well, just to make sure that you have all of the energy that comes in leaving when those materials leave the system. And there's this missing file check as well. So important for EPD verification that you include things like the product image for the cover page, the manufacturing diagram that's required for EPDs. So if those kinds of things are missing, the warning will be shown that not everything is the way it should be. You can see this checker on the results page. And also when you go to submit the EPD to EPD Hub, then you'll see this kind of a pop-up box that will let you know whether or not you do have issues. And if you do, then you can go ahead and review what those issues are, and you'll go back to page like the one I shared previously, where you can then check those issues. And if for whatever reason, there can be some cases where there's an imbalance in mass, or it might be that you haven't submitted or uploaded those images for good reason. You can still submit without verifying when you're using the regular EPD generator. But when it comes to the end-to-end tools, it's mandatory to address those issues before submission. So this basically means that some very early checks are being done so as you don't delay when you get into the verification process for the EPD. And this tool is available on the EPD Hub v3 and the end-to-end tools. With the EPD Hub v3 tool, it's part of the Power User Pack add-on. Then we added this selection of environmental standards when you create a design for the first time. So you're probably used to seeing this when you create the design, where you give it a name and choose a scope. Now we also have this option to select which standards it is that you are modeling in this particular LCA. And if you, let's say, for example, don't need to show the plus A1 impact indicators, then you don't check that box, and those results won't actually be on your results page or in the EPD document. So this prevents you from having to manually go and remove results tables from the EPD document itself, again, preventing some unnecessary bounces during verification. So what we'd seen recently was that EPDs that have just plus A2 impact indicators, for example, they're being used for other EPD creation. And so the plus A1 results were invalid, basically. And then they were getting rejected. Those EPDs were getting rejected during verification because the A1 results were still in the EPD document, but weren't complete with data. And so now, if it is the case that you only want to declare plus A2 impacts, then you can leave this plus A1 box unchecked and check the ones that you actually need. Another change that you may have noticed in the last few weeks was that we added new EPD scenario inputs. And this is specifically in the EPD Hub version 3 tool. And the reason we did this is in line with the PCR change for EPD Hub, which I'll talk about a little bit later as well. So their PCR has been updated, and it requests additional information on the scenarios that you've modeled in the LCA. So in line with that, we have updated the software. So now you can report things like the manufacturing energy scenario documentation. Essentially, what is the electricity data point that you used and what emissions does it have? And same for heating. It also requires transport scenario documentation. So what kinds of distance are you shipping things using what kinds of vehicles? It has the installation scenario documentation, if indeed installation is part of your scope. Likewise for the use stage and the end of life stage. So what amount of materials are going to recycling, incineration, landfill, and so on. So at the moment, these fields are optional. You do not need to fill them in, but they will become mandatory when it comes to using the new PCR from EPD Hub. And I'll talk more about timeline on that a little bit later. Part of a software release that just went in today and this morning is that we've added these identification numbers to the EPD datasets. So this has been a big request for clients recently about particularly being able to search CAS numbers. So when you're working with complex chemicals, it's not always easy to know exactly what name to search in the EcoInvent database or other databases for that matter. But you might have the CAS number. And if you have it, it's now possible to search this in the software. So you can use a GTIN or Global Trade Item Number, NOB, Norwegian Building Product Number, the European Community Number or EC number, or the CAS number to be able to search for these kinds of materials. I think this is a huge time saver, and hopefully you'll find use for this as well. So it will be applied to any resources that have these numbers available to them. We also introduced a new tool. So I don't know if we have many people from North America joining today's call. It's a little bit early still, but we now have a concrete EPD generator verified with NRMCA. So this is in compliance with their GPI and PCR, and it allows you to automate the publishing of ready-mix concrete mixes to the NRMCA EPD program. So yeah, this was also a big request, obviously coming from the North American market. So I'm very happy that we've been able to deliver that. There's a question in the chat here about implementing PCR scenarios in PEP tool as well. I'm not sure exactly if you mean like the reporting of the scenarios that you use or the ability to model specific scenarios like in an automated way. But happy to follow up with you on that question, Nicola, and we'll discuss exactly what it is that you would like to see maybe. Then I'll mention some updates on Materials Compass. So if you have expert license, you automatically have Materials Compass of part of it. And we've now introduced this new feature where you can create lists. So the list could be a bill of materials or could be anything else where you're gathering EPDs for comparative analysis or potentially to use in your LCA model. So I created this one just as an example. So Graham cement shopping list. So I'm on the lookout for different kinds of cement, and specifically I'm looking for ones in the Irish market, and a standard Portland cement CEM1. So I found these three options that suit my kind of specification, and I can sort of weigh up the options by reviewing the EPDs in detail. Here I can see what the global warming potential of each is. So I have ones with different amounts, and what I can do then with this list is I can add them to an LCA model directly, or I can share this list with somebody else. So I can send them an email to say, hey, have a look at these EPDs or these data sets that I found to use in your project or whatever the case is. So this is quite a handy feature with lots of different use cases, and again, hopefully you'll find a good use case for it. It's also now possible to claim a manufacturer page. So manufacturer pages are publicly available, and basically it acts as a library for EPDs from your company. So it's possible to claim that page, so you're able to sort of enhance it or include certain things, highlight certain things, and so on. So if you're interested in being able to do that and use this page then to share as a public library of your EPDs, then please feel free to reach out to us on that. And you can also generate sales leads now using One-Click LCA's Material Compass. So you can see data on who it is that's requesting information from your EPD and actually generate sales leads based on that. So there are two new features that we've added into this offering. So again, reach out if you think that manufacturer pages and the ability to generate leads based on your EPDs being used in other life cycle assessment, particularly building life cycle assessment, then of course we'd be happy to help introduce this feature to you. Next topic, we move on to best practices. So things change in LCA all of the time, and so this part of the presentation is just to bring you up to speed on what it is that we recommend that you do for certain aspects now and maybe going forward. So the first of those is to utilize the now publicly available pre-made end-of-life construction groups. So in the software, we have created these construction groups that are made for a specific scenario for different types of materials. And we've made them for A5 packaging waste, for C2 to C4 end-of-life waste of product materials, and also the corresponding Module D benefits and loads that go with those earlier stages. So on the screen, for example, I have the A5 scenario for cardboard packaging, and it's made for 1 kilo of cardboard, and you can scale it up and down however amount of cardboard that you have in your LCA. And inside it then, it has a predefined scenario, a referenceable scenario, which is detailed in the comment fields. So we can see in this example, 83% of the cardboard or paper is going to recycling. We have 8% of the cardboard that's going to incineration, and then we have 9% of the paper or cardboard going to landfill. I also just want to mention, because you can see here, these exported energy data sets have these warning triangles on them, and you'll see that too yourself in the software. This was as a result of the migration to EcoInvent 3.10.1, and we're still working on removing these symbols, but please know that they do not have any impact on the calculation at all. It's just purely a visual thing, and that we will aim to remove with the next release. So we have cardboard and paper, we have steel, we have plastic, we have wood pallets. So the main packaging materials, there's already these groups made that you can utilize right away. We also have them, as I said, in Module C. So you can search for many different groups. If you just search C2 to C4, C2-C4, then you'll see the full list of these construction groups. Find the material it is that you have in your product, and you can utilize this group. So in this case, aluminium, and the predefined scenario is 90% goes to recycling, 10% goes to landfill. And there's an equivalent Module D group for all of these, for both the packaging materials and the product materials. So in Module D, here the example is for polypropylene recycling. And here we can see we got the load for the recycling, the benefit of recycling that material, and then also the transfer of energy, which is required to do for recovered materials in Module D. So it's already set up for you. You don't have to think about which data sets do I need. You don't have to think about what kind of scenario it is. If you're happy with the predefined scenario and it applies for your region, then you're welcome to use it, and this will speed up your modeling a lot. It's also possible when you have the expert license, if you want to edit these groups or manipulate them for your own use. So maybe you want to tweak the scenario a little bit based on a more local reference. So if instead of 90% and 10%, so 90% recycling, 10% landfill for aluminium, you had 95-5, or maybe you only had 80-20, then you can, recreate these groups, unbundle them, and then make them as construction groups by changing the scenario. Just remember that you will, of course, need to be able to provide a reference for verification purposes. But these groups are already created with scenarios that can and will be verified during EPD verification. So please use them. If you find there isn't a construction group for a particular material or scenario that you think would be beneficial to have in there, of course, please reach out to us, and we're committed to developing these groups even further. There are about 100 of these construction groups already. The next is about old tools. So EcoVent 3.8 tools are ready to be switched to read-only mode. There was this notification in the software, which you can see on the right of the screen, about them being put to read-only on the 31st of the 3rd, so that was just yesterday. So we actually haven't taken the action on that yet, but they're already in set to be put to read-only mode. And the actions for you as users to take is to, if you haven't already, start using the 3.10.1 tools. So for example, EPD Hub v3. It, of course, has this latest database, but also eventually EcoVent 3.8 tools will be deprecated, and we won't support them or update them with the latest features. Another thing that you need to do in line with this is to review your EcoVent data lists. So it's likely that you still have some EcoVent 3.8 data in your company account. We did duplicate data lists as part of the migration. We duplicated the ones that you've curated yourself, so your own company lists. But for the reference lists, if you've worked with pre-made lists that Click LCA has created and added to the account for you, and you're now using EcoVent 3.10.1, you should delete those old lists, and you can add the equivalent 3.10 lists instead. So just making sure that you have the right data sets for the right tool that you're using. And if you need any help with this, so you're not exactly sure what to do with your data lists, or when it comes to starting to use 3.10.1, if you haven't already, of course, please just reach out to us at support@oneclicklca.com, and we'd be happy to help you with that. This next topic is quite a big one, a very important one, and one that probably many of you have spent a lot of time already learning. And now is a sort of, if we look at it in a positive light, it's an opportunity to learn a new way. Essentially, we've updated our approach to biogenic carbon balancing based on guidance from Eco Platform. So we used to take this approach where materials that aren't bio-based but may have had traces of biogenic carbon were set to balance in the same LCA stage, so as to get rid of any of those trace amounts. Now the guidance is that we should instead choose do nothing as the option, so as we just leave whatever trace amounts of biogenic carbon there, and we focus purely on the materials that are bio-based. So bio-based product materials in A1, bio-based packaging materials in A3, or bio-based ancillary materials in A3. If they are bio-based, then you should set the balancing to wherever it is that they leave the life cycle. So bio-based materials in A1 are usually leaving in end of life in C3 and C4. Packaging material usually leaving in A5, and ancillary materials also leaving in the same stage that they come in A3. For processes, waste treatment, transport, energy data sets, it's always set to do nothing. So this is a new approach. This document as an Excel file is available to download in the Help Center. We have an article specifically for biogenic carbon and energy balancing. So don't worry if this didn't click immediately from the short summary that I gave. Please feel free to go to the Help Center, download the Excel file there, and have a review of this in your own time, or apply it to one of your projects so that you've got this new balancing method going forward. Then the EPD Hub's GPI and PCR have been updated just last Monday, so on the 24th of March. So some key points about it. There's a 6-month transition period. So PCR 1.1 and the new version PCR 1.2 will sort of run simultaneously for the period of 6 months. So up until the 24th of September. So during that time, you can use either of those PCRs. Our recommendation right now is to stick to PCR 1.1 while we still update our tools in line with PCR 1.2. So we've been making some changes, but we still need to make more changes. So I showed earlier on this introduction of the EPD scenarios. So what kind of electricity is your model in A3? How much recycled material went to recycling in C, and so on. This is in line with the new PCR, but there are other things that need to be updated. So some of the updates on the PCR, and the main reason for updating the PCR, as I understand, is to be in line with the eco platform rules, to update the biogenic carbon balancing approach, like I showed on the previous slide, updates regarding the product grouping, scaling tables, and also data quality reporting, which is one of the key things that we will implement into the tools over the next couple of months. So continue to use PCR 1.1 for the next couple of months. We'll make an announcement on the updates to our tools and when they're perfectly in line with PCR 1.2. And then after that, you can switch over to the new PCR. I've linked here on the slide a summary of all of the rule changes. So it's a bit longer document, 10 pages, where it goes through all of the exact changes. So it's a very good idea to familiarize yourself with that document, so that you can be prepared for using the new PCR when it is that it's ready to be used with our software. And then separately from the GPI and PCR update, the use of EPD Hub v3 tool is now mandatory as of today. So I mentioned already about switching over to tools with 3.10.1. That's not only just to be able to have the latest data and the latest software features and so on. It's also because EPD Hub require now that you use the version 3 tool. And that's because EcoEvent 3.10.1 is characterized using EF 3.1, and that is necessary. So they will no longer accept EPDs with data that's characterized with EF 3.0. And there's a question that comes into the chat here from Samuel. Might be something to have planned to have a webinar or training on EPD Hub PCR version 1.2 in due course. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. We're already working on some guidance for the Academy course and potentially also the Help Center, where we'll have information on what it is exactly you need to fill in these new questions in the software, and then what else there is to look out for in the new PCR. So the tool will be fully compliant, expected maybe in the release in early June, but let's see how that timeline develops. And then there's a question here about what is the 6-month transition period. So basically it means that although the PCR 1.2 was released on the 24th of the 3rd, you don't have to use it right away. There's 6 months where you can continue to use the PCR 1.1, so that the older version, let's say. So usually program operators give you a chance to finish off the LCA modeling that you were still doing with the existing PCR. So it's not like just released today and you have to start using it today. They just give you a little bit of leeway to continue working the way you are. And here EPD Hub is given a 6-month transition period. Okay, then yeah, we come to the Q&A section. So I've already answered some of the questions that came up in the chat, but happy if anybody wants to ask any more. I see there's some typing going on, so I'll give a moment for the questions to be complete. And also we'll return to Nicola's question about PCR scenarios in PEP if you want to provide any additional comment there. Okay, so first question that came in from Georg, are the new rules for biogenic and energy balancing set by default correctly when adding a data point? They aren't. So this is a great question. They are do nothing by default. And so it needs to be set by the user themselves. Why don't we have it set? Well, basically, but that question wasn't asked, but I can sort of feel why wouldn't we have it already set? It might not always be the case that somebody wants them to be set by default. You can do biogenic and energy balancing manually if you want to. And it's not always certain what the different kind of material types are and whether or not they should be balanced in a certain life cycle stage or another. So there are some sort of edge cases, let's say, where us setting the balancing by default wouldn't be accurate. And I'm not sure about the latest guidance from Eco Platform, but it used to be before from certain program operators that they wanted users to be given a choice of how they do the balancing. So we, as a software provider, couldn't insist that you did it a particular way. So when we were going through tool verification before, the tool verifier had said, like, I don't think that you should insist on this approach to balancing, but you should leave it open for the LCA author themselves to choose. So that's why we don't have it set by default. But the construction groups and things that we've made and the templates that are now up to date, they do have the new modeling approach in them. Then Elisa has a question about how to switch to EPD Hub v3 tool. You don't really need to switch anything, so to speak. The tool should have automatically been added to your license, depending on when your license was created. So if you'd previously been using EPD Hub v2, then v3 would have automatically been added to your license, and your projects that were in the v2 tool were duplicated in the v3 tool. So everything should have been done for you in that regard. But what you should do going forward is, if you create new projects and new designs, that you choose the v3 tool from within that design. Don't create any new projects using the v2 tool. So new projects created there will not be migrated, and also you can't sort of use them for publication with most program operators now, because they require EcoInvent 3.10.1. What could be the best practice to gain Eco Platform acceptance for EPDs published before these changes? So Eco Platform acceptance with EPD Hub is not confirmed yet. So EPD Hub are continuing to do like an audit with Eco Platform to get acceptance to be able to publish EPDs in Eco Portal. So until they have completed that and their member status with Eco Platform has been, let's call it, upgraded to an established program operator, it's not possible that EPD Hub EPDs are actually accepted on Eco platform. But they expect that to happen soon enough, and after that point, then they will be on Eco platform. Then just a follow-up question from Elisa. If I've created an EPD in version 2, is there a possibility to change it to version 3? If you did it this month, no, there isn't. You would basically just need to manually kind of replicate that LCA in version 3 of the tool. And the reason why you can't just switch over the tool is because they have a different query structure. So the way that the tool is set up in terms of where different questions and data is in the actual software is different. So that's why you need to more manually change the data from one to the next. If you've used the import form with Excel, then it might be easier option to just move the data from the Excel file into the latest version of the import form for the EPD Hub v3 tool, and that's probably a faster way to do it. Otherwise, it's more like manual migration. I'll just wait a moment to see if any other questions come in. Yeah, just confirming with Elsa that you should duplicate it in version 3. So EPD Hub won't accept EPDs using version 2 of the tool because it has the older version of EcoInvent, which is not characterized with the latest version of the environmental footprint. There's no training course on how to duplicate it or how to switch over to V3 tool, but certainly if you want to reach out to us at support, we can help you with it. So if you just send an email to support@oneclicklca.com, you can let us know what project it is, even share a link to it, and we can tell you what the best way to do it is basically. But it's either using the Excel import or a more manual approach. I don't have a full list of the available construction groups, but if you search in the software, you'll be able to find them. So if you put A5 packaging, you'll see all of the packaging ones. If you search C2-C4, you'll see all of the C module ones. And if you put, well, I think they say D and then the names of the material, so it's a little bit maybe harder to find those. But for every A5 packaging group and for every module C group, there's a corresponding module D group. So you can search like D aluminium in module D. And when you're searching, to narrow down the search, you should use the filter for other assemblies. So that's the classification, is other assemblies. So if you use that, then you'll be able to get to the right ones. Okay, I'll move on then just to wrap up. So a few other things to sort of highlight to everybody. So the first one is the Carbon Experts report from 2025. This was released last month. So if you haven't had a chance to read it, please check it out. You can just search Carbon Experts Report, Click LCA. You can find it on our website. Really good read. It's got some very interesting statistics from the industry on what the demand for EPDs are and what the sort of what they're doing to sort of drive the industry. So you'll see insights from AEC professionals that are using our building level tools and how they're utilizing your EPDs, for example. And then you'll also get the feeling from the manufacturer side on what they think the latest trends are. We'll also run a sustainability summit this summer again. So very excited to announce this. We don't even yet have details to sign up for it. So please keep your eye out for it. Again, it's one of the largest sustainability summits digitally. We'll have lots of different kinds of guest speakers. We'll also review the insights from that Carbon Experts report as well. So yeah, keep your eye out for that, and stay tuned by following us on LinkedIn. There you'll find the latest news and also information about latest kind of events that we're hosting as well. And also join the conversation in One Click LCA community. There's been lots of good interaction there where people are asking questions on how to do different types of modeling or what kind of data sets to search and use in product LCA. So yeah, if you're keen to learn from others and help others, please feel free to join the community and get involved in the conversation there. That's basically it for today's webinar. Thanks very much for sticking with me after the technical issues at the beginning. I appreciate that. If there's any other questions or topics that come up, feel free to reach out to us in support. If you've got suggestions, like we've had a couple in the chat already for what we could cover in upcoming webinars, we would absolutely love to hear them. So thanks again for attending, and see you next quarter.